All right, Texans lose to the Green Bay Packers. Last-second field goal. It is the Locker Room post-game show, number one source for Texans digital content. We'll hear from DeMeco Ryans. We'll hear from C.J. Stroud, one of the worst games statistically of his career, and we'll break it all down right here in the Locker Room. Immediately off the top, I knew this was coming.
Damn it, Bobby.
Hubra says, can't wait for us to part ways with Slowick. There's nothing special about his offense, and he repeatedly shows his incompetence with his play calling. So I figured there would be some anger with Bobby Slowick. I got to tell you, we'll just start right off the top. I think the defense was as good as you could realistically expect them to be. I thought the special teams was elite. This was the best performance by far by the special teams. Might have been a blowout without the special teams, and the offense was terrible. This was an awful, outside of Joe Mixon, this was an awful offensive performance. C.J. Stroud, 86 yards passing, and quite frankly, he was running for his life. A lot of the time, he never really had a chance at all. I know it's easy to blame Bobby Slowick. I do think there's something that we need to get into when it comes to Bobby Slowick, and we'll do that right off the top. But I think that this was as much to do with about the inability to protect C.J. Stroud as anything. He was running for his life, and when it wasn't the offensive line, it was the continuation of basic stunts leading to either sacks or pressures with C.J. Stroud. The protection on this team is awful. If the protection on this squad, the investment in the offensive line is awful. At this point, having a really good offensive line is unrealistic. Having a competent one week to week is maybe just as unrealistic, to say the very least. It's absolute terrible. T on the super chat, Packers operate differently without the timeout. Slowick needs to be fired. I do not care. That third down play call was sabotage. Let's just get right into that. And I'll go ahead and say this. That end of the game by the Texans on their final offensive possession was about as dumb as it gets. That was about as dumb as it possibly gets by the Houston Texans at the end of the game. So you have C.J. Stroud heroics, the final play before the 2-minute warning on 3rd and 10. He rolls out and by the way, avoids pressure. Could have easily been sacked there, but he rolls out. He finds Xavier Hutchinson. They move the chains. And it goes down to the 2-minute warning with both teams having their full allotment of timeouts. Now, the Texans decided after that play, and I had no issue with this decision, but it's a decision where if you're going to make it, you've got to stay committed to it. But they decide after the 2-minute warning, the Texans decide that they're going to run the clock down and they're going to settle for the field goal, which it's fine. They're going to at the Green Bay 12-yard line. The Texans have decided that they're going to run the ball. They're going to make Green Bay use their timeouts, and they're going to let Caserio Fairbairn kick the field goal. So they run with Mixon for -2 yards. Green Bay calls a timeout. 2nd and 12 at the 14. They run with Mixon, -3 yards. Green Bay calls a timeout. So on 3rd and 15 at the Green Bay 17, 1:52 remaining, and the Texans and Green Bay having just one timeout, what did the Texans decide to do? You've already been kind of committed to bleeding down the clock. You've already shown that you're committed to bleeding down the clock. What do the Texans do? It's one thing to throw it to try to perhaps end the game if you get the first down or score a touchdown and make Green Bay have to score a touchdown. They throw a pass to the sidelines in which it's incomplete to Tank Dell. It wouldn't have mattered if he would have caught that. It would have been the exact same result. Because at the time of that pass, you're talking about a 32-yard field goal, or 34-yard field goal from Caserio Fairbairn, which would have given the Texans the lead. And let's say that they actually run the ball or they complete it inbounds. Green Bay has to use their final timeout, so they won't have a timeout to work with on their very next series. If Tank Dell even catches that, it's the exact same thing as throwing it away, unless you're worried about Caserio Fairbairn making a field goal from 34 instead of, say, 27 or something like that. Like a 27-yard field goal and a 34-yard field goal for Ka'imi Fairbairn is the same thing. It's one thing if you throw it in the middle of the field and you still make them use that timeout, or you're throwing behind the first down markers, or at least getting your receiver the ball in space to where maybe he can get the first down in the game or get in the end zone. But when you're throwing the ball to the sidelines, are you worried about Fairbairn making a 34-yard field goal? You make Green Bay burn the timeout. You already committed to it. Now, if you had attacked from the jump during those after the 2-minute warning, then that's completely different. But you've already decided. You put your offense in 3rd and 15. You struggled on 3rd down. Before that Hutchinson completion, I think they were 0-8 or whatever on 3rd and 8 plus. So on 3rd and 15, what are you trying to do? You're trying to stop the clock and get Fairbairn a closer field goal? It makes no sense. The risk reward of that play, it makes no sense. And Green Bay has a timeout. And who knows, they probably attacked the field a little bit differently with that timeout. They were able to get closer before that and for the field goal for a guy who's been on the couch for a while before that timeout. They gained 6 yards to get a little bit closer and make it a 45-yard field goal instead of 50-plus. And we know what the gap is, 50-plus compared to other field goals. So allowing Green Bay to function and work the middle of the field perhaps a little bit more than they should, and the risk reward of that play means nothing. Like that play to Tank Dell meant nothing. There's no result there outside of a pass interference or something like that you benefit from. Unless you think Fairbairn can't make a 34-yard field goal and that there's some wide gap. Would you rather Fairbairn kick a 34-yard field goal, which he ended up having to do anyways, with Green Bay with no timeouts, or would you rather him kick a 27-yard field goal with Green Bay still keeping their timeout? Because whether he caught it there or not, the clock stops. The incompletion was irrelevant. If it would have been a slant or in the middle of the field and there'd been an incompletion, then we could say, oh, damn, you let him keep their timeout. In that situation on the sidelines, it doesn't matter. Tank Dell's going out of bounds anyways. So I don't understand the play call. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Going back to the super chat, Tommy, the OL was to blame for this game until the last offensive series where Slowick is to blame. The offensive line is bad. The protection as a whole is bad. There was a play where Agumbawale failed to recognize a basic stunt. CJ Stroud had no time to work. The run blocking, I guess, is good, although it only looks good when Mixon's in there, so maybe that's a running back thing. But the offensive line as a whole and the protection is a major problem, which I don't know how Bobby Slowick is supposed to function in that. But at the end of that game, you're already committed. So that play made no sense. It made zero sense. In-game coaching decisions in general were bad. DeMeco not challenging the backward-forward pass was inexcusable. Offensive play calling was trash as well. I didn't look when I first saw it. I didn't think that was a backwards pass. I know Romo and Nance were talking about it, and then they had Sterator come in there. I didn't really know whether it was a backwards pass or not. To be honest, I thought it was a forward pass, but maybe it is worth challenging. I know Romo and Nance were saying it in the moment, so maybe it's not hindsight. Romo drives me crazy, by the way. LXCID illusions. Our D-line is horrible and bad coaching at the end of the game, just bad all the way around. Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
Needs to be gone. Rush after rush on early downs is bad, not only this week, but week after week. I had no problem with them running the ball. Quite frankly, that was the only thing they could do well. And it seems like they've run the ball pretty good on second down. So I don't like predictable play calling. I don't know. I think with the way that this team blocks, I have no problem running the ball. That's the only thing that they could have done. But the end of that game was absolutely inexcusable. Speaking of which, let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. Let's hear what DeMeco Ryans has to say. It is the Locker Room post-game show. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Here's DeMeco after the L in Green Bay.
Yeah, our keys to victory this week was executing and finish. Like, we didn't execute well enough.
It's every week.
All the way across the board, we didn't execute well enough, and we didn't finish the game. Credit to the Packers. They finished it the right way, made the plays when they needed to make it, and they finished the game the right way. But for us to play how we play, offensively is just not good enough for us. We have to play better. Guys have to execute better, have to step up. Yeah, we thought we had a completion there to Tank. He was open, just a little tight on the sideline. So
But what's the
we had
point?
a good completion.
But what's the point? That's the problem I have. What's the point? If you had a completion to Tank, do you think Fairbairn can't make a 34-yard field goal? Doesn't matter if you thought you had a completion to Tank. If it were in the middle of the field, then okay. Like if he drops a pass, a slant that's even 3 yards out, okay. But in that situation, even if he catches it, the clock stops. It's the same result. Fairbairn kicks a field goal that he's probably 95% likely to make, just like he did, just like he is from 34. So the play is irrelevant. That's the problem.
Yeah, our goal is always to go score. That's our goal. Like they did a good job of stopping us, didn't get in. So, obviously we didn't pass the ball well all day, right? So it wasn't good all the way around. We ran the ball well. Thought Joe did a good job of running the ball. And, we needed to pass it. It was not good enough, starting with the protection. If we can't protect,
it's terrible.
And that's going to be difficult for the quarterback.
Protection's awful.
Yeah, we have to go back to the drawing board and see, what those issues were. As we watch the film, we'll see what happens.
It's the same it's been all year.
Starting just, for me, just seeing the communication.
Offensive line can't block.
Guys just,
period.
Being on the details of their job.
Locker room post-game show here on
anytime you can, as
YouTube.
Defense, they were able to get pressure, whether it's with the stunts or with the blitzes, right? It affects us. It affects the passing game, and we saw that today. But there's no excuses. We have to protect it. We have to go make plays. Which on the sideline? Yeah, he said it was incomplete.
Was.
Every time we step out is opportunity to learn, opportunity to grow, right? We had opportunities here to finish this game. We had our hands on two balls there at the end, like ball was tipped up. We come down and make a play there. It's a completely different feeling right now, but you go back, you learn from it. We see the mistakes, win or loss. We always learn from it. Thought our guys did a good job defensively, but at the end of the day, we didn't make enough plays to win the game. No matter who's out there, there's no excuses. We got to play our technique the right way and make plays when it's our time to make a play. Yeah, in the run game, a couple times they out-physicaled us in the run game. They were playing on our side of the line of scrimmage. They were attacking, knocking us back. We weren't knocking them back. So we had to get it fixed. Yeah, I didn't see it. So, I understand it happened. Things like that happen. Those guys have a history. They've been going at it before. We don't encourage that, right? We just want to go play ball the right way and make sure it's settled on the field. So, that's something we can't be about chirping and all the extra stuff. We just got to be about executing when the ball is snapped. All right. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, there you go. That's DeMeco Ryans. We'll hear from CJ Stroud in a sec. Didn't even break 90 today. Very, very meh performance from CJ. We'll hear what he has to say about it and his personal performance. I'm anticipating probably some accountability. I thought DeMeco's defense was good. I thought the special teams were great. I thought the offense was terrible. I think it's really that simple. I thought the end of game execution was suspect. There was no payoff for that Tank Dell play call. You make Green Bay burn your final timeout. I got in a back and forth before I got in here about that. I don't understand how anyone can justify that. Who knows how Green Bay functions? Who knows how they run their offense if they don't have that extra timeout? T says Indy 4-3. Better hope we get right. game next weekend, preferably without Slowick. Slowick's going to be here. He's not going to get fired. This is
Damn it, Bobby.
This is crazy. Maybe he'll have to step it up a little bit. Look, if they don't block, it doesn't matter who they bring in. They could go wake Bill Walsh from the dead. If they're not going to block and they're going to block the way they have, then it's just going to be a roller coaster ride of up and down where you're dependent on CJ Stroud or you're dependent on things. The other thing about this game that I think is interesting is we talk about being CJ dependent and going back to pre-CJ, we talked about Deshaun saves all butts. This was a performance where CJ Stroud wasn't good, and the special teams and CJ Stroud in the offense and the special teams and the defense were really, really good to where you almost won this game. And that's the sign of a complete team, especially when you factor in that the defense was depleted. So I don't know that this team is CJ dependent, but you're not going to win games when a guy throws for 90 yards. It's just not going to happen. And we can go back to this. Like we're talking about Bobby Slowick. Tank Dell dropped a touchdown right off the top. Right off the top, Neville Hewitt gets an interception. Tank Dell, I mean, he was very, very active, chirping back and forth with the Green Bay Packers. Him and Diggs both. They were chirping. Now, I don't know that Diggs left any meat on the bone or any opportunities, but Tank Dell, he was more than willing to go talk trash. Neville Hewitt filling in, by the way, second straight week that he's led the team in tackling. He gets an interception right off the top. CJ Stroud, perfect throw to Tank Dell right there, and he drops the touchdown. So you have to settle for 3. You get off to a 3-point lead, and it almost feels like you left some meat on the bone. So I think Tank Dell, who didn't have a catch the entire game, Tank Dell, he catches that, probably sets the tone. He wasn't good today. Bubba Homeschool offense runs through Frico, Nico, and Smoking Joe Mix, and that's okay. Defense played good. We look like a real team. Heads high, 18-2 LFG. Okay. Some positivity right there from Bubba. Kalen Bullock, defensive rookie of the year. He leads all rookies in interceptions. He was good. He had early struggles, and then he had the interception. He's been really, really good, Kalen Bullock. He's definitely a long-term starting safety. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Fire the O-line coach at this point. They're pathetic. I mean, this is what, their 4th offensive line coach in 4 or 5 years? It's the personnel. Like, I don't know what we know this. It's not the coach, it's the personnel. They've invested a ton in the offensive line. The offensive line's not that good. It's better at times than others, but it's not that good. And they're not good at picking up basic stunts. So I don't blame that on the coach. The offensive line's not good. And we can say whatever we want about the play calling. If the offensive line's not good, if you can't protect it, maybe it's schematic, then you don't have much of a chance to win games. That's what it's at. Colts going to feel the wrath of the Texans next week. No way we lose next week at home after almost winning this week. Okay, we'll see. I actually think the Colts have done a pretty good job at being 4-3. A little bit surprising. Patty says Slowick coaches the offensive line. I guess he helps. Is it his fault on the protection? To me, it looks like a lot of times the offensive line's in the right place. They just get their ass whooped. The stunts and stuff, I think you can put that on the coaching, but there are times over the course of a game where these guys just head to head, helmet to helmet, belly to belly, whatever else to whatever else, they just completely get their asses whooped. I don't know that that's coaching. We miss Lassiter, and our O-line is bad, simple. I thought Ross held up fine. Look, did Ross play great? No. He got picked on at times, which is expected. I thought he held up as good as you could possibly hope, realistically hope for him to hold up. But yeah, they definitely missed Kamari Lassiter. But I thought Ross, it wasn't a complete disaster. It wasn't a beginning to end disaster. I thought he held up pretty good. Someone says 71 can't even stand up. That's a little bit harsh. Bro, Titus tripped on the turf. How much they paying him? He's one of the 5, I think, highest paid right tackles in football is what he is. They use the Vikings defense as the blueprint. What is the blueprint? Is it just basic stunts? What is the blueprint to beat the Texans? Maybe there is a blueprint. I think it's just show up and physically dominate the offensive line at this point. Communication, there's no communication between the O-line. Like, how is it the veteran lineman can't identify rushers on basic stunts? One of them was Agumbawale. All Gumbawale had to do was go a couple feet to his right, and I think he gets in the guy's way. One of them. Find the O-line every hit they give up. I don't know if that's allowed in the in the agreement. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud coming off one of the worst games of his career. I'm actually really excited to hear this. Keep the comments coming. It is a Locker Room post-game show here on YouTube. Texans defense shows up, special teams shows up, offense outside of Joe Mixon, meh. Here's the leader of that offense, CJ Stroud, and what he had to say after that dud in Green Bay.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, man, just to have another opportunity to come out here and, play in this historical stadium. But, a lot of things didn't go right offensively. We just really didn't get in the rhythm early. Missed some ops. Thought we ran the ball really well, but just weren't clicking in a passing game and, just couldn't find our rhythm. So, got to, go watch the film, figure out what went wrong and, try to just get better and, actually do get better is no try. And really just get back to practice and just work harder. I just try to execute every play that I can that I get called. I really don't know the philosophy right then and there. I'm trying to talk to DeMeco, but I really can't get over there. But what it seemed like we were trying to just run out the clock and then try to kick a field goal. Before we ended up having to throw the ball on third down and then give them the ball back with a minute and like 40 left. So I think that it was a good plan. Just got to execute better. No, it wasn't. They run it. They rush as one. They have a lot of twist game up front. So the more they twist it and turn, we just gotta set with a little depth and just try to level it off. But I thought they did a good job of just sending their stunts, and we just got to be better in protection. And I got to be better getting the ball out on time. It's a multitude of things. I felt he played great. He played really good.
It's Locker Room post-game show here on YouTube.
If y'all need anything, yeah. Yeah, I think it's very important. We got to find a way to try to get him to rock, and early and often, and then, go from there. So I think, that's got to be a focus for us. Not only just him, but, just the whole offense, just getting the offense clicking early, so, that's really my job and my job to give the ball out on time and to where it's supposed to go. So, yeah, that definitely got to be fixed. I mean, you got to watch the tape, but usually when you play bad or you come out the field, it's not as bad as it seems. It's usually, you shot yourself in the foot a million times. And, I think that's what we did. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot once again. And I think, that's just a recipe for disaster when you're playing against a great team. I think our defense did a great job today. I thought our special teams did amazing, so we got to be better as offense. This is on us, point blank, period. Pretty much, yeah. So we gotta just be better on protection and call whatever gets called.
Protection for sure.
Yes, sir. I would say just negative plays, and just finding a way to get in third and manageable. I think that's something that we can do as better. And then on third down, we got to be able to move the chains. That's the one way you sustain yourself in this league. But you can't live on third down as well. You got to be great on first and second. And then from there, you got to take care of business on third down. So I definitely think that's what I mean. All right, you guys. Thank you.
All right, there you go. That's CJ Stroud here in the locker room post-game show. Just not a good performance. I mean, DeMeco said the plan was execution and whatever. Yeah, that I would hope that's the plan every time. But it's been really, really bad. Richard says we need Nico ASAP because Tank and Diggs ain't doing nothing. We need to trade Tunsil and Howard, even Shaq, after the season and start over on the O-line. Goodness gracious. The craziest thing for me that's going on right now that I've seen in the chat and I've seen multiple people say is last year's offensive line was better than this year's offensive line. And quite frankly, I don't know whether to disagree with that. I don't know whether to disagree with that. It felt like they did a better job of picking up stunts. It felt that way. That's what it felt like. I think this is a complete team. You were this close to winning a game with CJ Stroud throwing for less than 90 yards with half your defense out. Special teams was great. Special teams has kind of been up and down. Special teams was great. Outside of a couple of Desmond King things and some weird stuff, he doesn't need to be on the field returning punts anymore. Give me Tank Dell or figure something else out. Because that's a disaster. You got Pierce. Pierce had the good kickoff return, which set stuff up. It led to the 52-yard field goal by Fairbairn. But I don't know. Rod, I disagree with Rod. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Titus Howard's overrated? What? Titus Howard's overrated? Huh? I disagree with that. I don't think Titus Howard's overrated at all. I think you're crazy for saying that, Rod. And let me say why. Because anyone who thinks Titus Howard's a really good offensive tackle is on crack. They're on crack. Anyone who thinks he's a really good offensive tackle is on crack, or maybe
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets. Did you know what that was?
I think it's very well documented that Titus Howard is not a great offensive lineman. See, you thought I was going to defend Titus Howard and say he was a good tackle there, didn't you? I had you going. But no, I don't think Titus Howard is overrated at this point. I don't think anyone that watches this squad is Gunner. He meant overpaid. I know. I was just playing around with them. I don't even think the O-line's overrated. Who says this offensive line is good? Who says that? I don't know anyone that's saying this offensive line is good. It's shaky at times and okay at times. And they're very Mixon dependent. Have you noticed that? They look a lot better when Mixon's out there. What a concept. The running back can make the O-line look better. What a concept. But yeah, I don't know that the O-line is over. Who's rating this offensive line as a good offensive line? Who says that? I don't think anyone says that. And the excuses, like any potential excuses, they haven't played together this many times. You know how many times they had to basically get duct tape and put the offensive line on the field last year? Often. They were better than this. So yeah, the offensive line, it's rough. And that's why it's kind of hard with the Bobby Slowick thing. I don't think Bobby Slowick called a good game. I thought the final offensive play for the Texans was idiotic. There was no reward for that outside of not making Green Bay use a timeout and getting a few yards closer for a field goal attempt. Take a shot in the end zone, okay. Try to get the first down, okay. Get the ball in the playmaker's hands. I would have rather just thrown a sideways pass to Tank Dell. Bobby Slowick likes throwing sideways passes. If there was ever a time for a sideways pass, that was it. Get a few yards closer and make them use the timeout. But I don't think this offensive line is overrated. It's far. Nobody with an ounce of sanity thinks this is a good offensive line. At times they're better than others, but nobody thinks that. I don't think. At least we have a run game. Better win next week. And they have a run game when Mixon's in there. There's no doubt. And once Joe Mixon and Nico Collins get back, you're going to have something going. Now, the crazy thing is you're going to have to go 2 more games without Nico. You got a Colts team that's 4-3. Shane Steichen's a hell of a coach. He knows DeMeco. And I don't know. I think Shane Steichen's going to be sniffing out some of these guys in coverage too. We saw LaFleur and Love. They were going at Ross. I think that's going to continue. And then we'll figure out what's up with Petrie and Murray and all that. By the way, Eric Murray, terrible series for him today. When he missed the tackle on third down that would have gotten Green Bay off the field, and then he picked up the 30-yard pass interference. He wasn't great either. Dell was good last week. Dell was really good last week, I thought. Good teams have O-lines that fight, but ours lays down. I don't know if they lay down or not. They get beat. I don't know if they're laying down. I don't know if it's a lack of effort. I don't know that I would say all that. But they do get beat. Shout out to Michael. Bad play calling on the last drive. Yeah, if you're going to go for it, go for it. If you're going to try to pick up the first down, pick up the first down. Don't sit there for 2 straight downs and accept not really trying to move the chains, and then on 3rd and 15 try to get closer and stop the clock on what would be a 34-yard field goal. That's dumb. No excuse for that at all. None. Someone says the offensive line is diva-like. I don't know. Neville Hewitt, yes, he did have another suplex. He had the running suplex a couple of weeks ago, and then he had the suplex this week that got him in 3rd down. Do you think Nico will actually be back in 2 weeks? I worry about the injury with him lingering one. No, I don't. I think Nico will be back. The Harris thing was different, and I kind of warned you on the channel about the Harris thing. I think Nico's back. I think the reason that they put Nico on IR is they don't want to bring him back and ask him to play 2 games in 5 days against Indianapolis and then the Jets on that playing surface. That is the most unfriendly to soft tissue injuries field that there is. So I think Nico's back. I think Nico's back when expected after the 4 weeks. Don't quote me on that, but I would bet on that very, very heavily. I would probably bet on that. In the meantime, Stefan Diggs kind of got to hold it down. Aaron Wilson caught up with him. Shout out to Aaron Wilson, KPRC2. Here was his conversation with Stefan Diggs after the game. Game that just started before it even started. Stefan Diggs getting into it with Jair Alexander. Here's Diggs after the
Steph, first of all, start with the game, just the outcome. DeMeco was just talking about how as an offense, you guys are better than that.
Way better. I feel like offensively, we got a lot of weapons. I speak on it all week as far as like horses in the stable. Quarterback had a lot of pressure today. We got to execute better. And that's what really was the outcome came to finishing the execution. We didn't execute at all.
Pre-game, you guys got into it. You guys have a history, a long history. What happened? What was your perspective on the altercation?
I was walking to the locker room in the beginning of the game. I heard somebody chirping. I'm never the bigger person. I don't give a fucking about myself with a million. So I'm never the bigger person. I ain't letting shit go. Obviously they picked it up or whatever, but I ain't with the football tough guys. It is what it is.
10 toes down, right?
All the time. But I ain't getting all that. It's just I ain't letting shit go.
How much of it do you feel it was you guys just not being able to execute versus maybe what the Packers was doing?
Both. Shit, I feel like obviously we wanted to control us. They played the average. They was getting pressure. They just had to play a better game. Obviously we didn't execute at a high level. It wasn't being us. That's the results you get when you don't execute. And shit, get back in the lab. Obviously, it's a thing you're gonna have to fix. And we're gonna have to have better answers to. So play back on the lab before you turn on the tape on Monday.
What can you learn from? What can you guys in the offense kind of learn from this football?
Shit, like playing on the road is obviously tough, but when you're going on the road, you gotta execute at a high level. You can't ride a roller coaster again. You're going against a good team. Obviously, that's a good team, and they can't play. So when you're going to somebody else's house, you gotta have a mindset and you gotta execute.
How much does it help that because you guys have been winning a bunch of games this year, you guys are obviously still in a really good spot?
Yeah.
Even come out for loss like that.
Just believing you're a good team. We know we're a good team. Obviously, we didn't put our best foot forward today, but knowing that you're a good team, knowing that we can play better than that, and finally you bit us in the ass. You know what I'm saying? Like all that preaching during the week, like we gotta be better. We playing ball, we playing ball, but we're not playing our best ball. When we play a good team, you gotta play your best ball. You gotta be executing at a high level. And finally bit us, and I think it's like something that Paul always does everybody well, get you back in the lab. Because I feel like during the week we had a good week of preparation, but going out there, you still gotta execute at a high level. So it's early, you know what I'm saying? Good thing that we got out of the way. They play better than us today.
You may have already been asked this,
What were they doing that made your guys' job so difficult to get on time? Just sending pressure. Obviously, it's a team sport. We was out there playing 7-on-7 as a DBs versus receivers, but it's not that. CJ had a lot of pressure. He was trying to figure it out back there, and we could be better. Obviously, we could be better. Whether it's timing with the receivers, whatever it is. I feel like as a unit, obviously we can be better as a team, but as receivers, all we can do is farm our own line. So we get open, catch the ball, do the best.
All right, there you go. That's Stefan Diggs after the game, courtesy of Aaron Wilson, KPRC, at Aaron Wilson _NFL on X. Where's the tight end play? It's kind of interesting. So you had a series before Stroud got sacked and taken out of field goal range where they actually had 43 yards combined. Schultz had a 28-yard reception. Stover had a 15. I think that might have been the only 2 catches that you got there. Which is actually the second most receiving yard production from tight ends this year, just in that series. I don't know that either one of them had a catch after that either. So tight end production is tough. I will say this, whenever you're not protecting, you're probably a little bit more hesitant to send wide receivers on routes. So maybe there's that, but that's what's up. It's on CJ too. Wasn't calling the right protection at times. There was almost a free rusher every sack. DeMeco got out coached in the game. Depends how you look at it. I would say that, Matt LaFleur, his offense was okay. I'd say if you look at DeMeco and say he's in charge of the defense, with all the injuries that they had, I thought it was a hell of an effort to bounce against a damn good team in Green Bay. And I'll ask you this, like if the offense had the equivalent of what the defense didn't have, how do you think that goes for them? I thought the defense was good. There's the question about should they have challenged the play that Romo was going on and on about? How should they have handled the end? Is that more of an offensive thing? But I thought they were fine on defense. With today's performance, do you think the Texans will be more active before the trade deadline? I don't think this impacts what they do or don't do during the trade deadline. Dre says you can't blame the wide receivers for this loss. What does that mean? Do you mean like they're not the main reason for blame, or they don't deserve any of the blame? That's my question. I always get amused, like in post-game shows and after losses, where it's like, well, you can't blame this because of this. Well, there's plenty of blame to go around. You could probably list 20 reasons why the Texans lost this game. If you were going to talk about the wide receivers, I would say there are a lot of times where they weren't getting open. Tank Dell dropped a touchdown right off the top. That was a 4-point swing after Hewitt's interception. So, yeah, they weren't great. They didn't have a lot of opportunity. I think if you're power ranking the reasons why the offense struggled, I think you can say protection 100%. But Tank Dell did drop a touchdown, and I don't think the wide receivers were awesome. So, yeah, I'm always confused when people say you can't blame. Does that mean that you can't blame, like it's not the main reason, or what? Mixon balled out as usual. Yes, he did. It is a Locker Room post-game show. Be sure to swarm the like button, subscribe, right along. Texans lose a heartbreaker to the Green Bay Packers. You ain't never swarm. And let's go through the recap of the game here in the critical moments. A lot of times I like this exercise. This isn't like summarizing what went down. This is a way to kind of relive it while it's close to us. Like Reaction Monday tomorrow on SNL. By the way, 8 a.m. myself and Cody Stutes will be live SNL. Check out Cody's work. Check out my work. We have a simulcast every morning. You can subscribe to it on all podcast platforms. Just type in Cody Stutes, Landry Locker, and you'll have the audio form of that. You can watch it on YouTube live Monday through Friday. But a lot of times you have more time to kind of react, gather stuff, look at numbers more. Some people maybe go back and watch the game. But I think this exercise going through and the way in which it's laid out, it kind of gives you like a little bit more, maybe like us more perspective of, what did go wrong and what did go right. The game started out obviously chippy. You had Diggs and Alexander in pregame, the back and forth, the chirping. You heard Stefan Diggs say basically that he keeps it 100 and he's not going to let anything go or be the bigger guy. And they obviously have a history So there was that. We'll hear from Joe Mixon in a second, by the way. But early on in the game, you had the defense immediately stepping up. You had Neville Hewitt with the interception. He goes down to the 11-yard line, and then it's a missed opportunity for the Texans on drive one. And this was drive one. Tank Dell drops the touchdown pass right there in his chest. CJ Stroud throws it perfectly to him, and he ends up dropping the pass. And that's the difference in 4 points early on, and a missed opportunity where you force a turnover. A guy who's filling in at linebacker that hasn't played a ton of defensive snaps before last week, he makes a play, he steps up, and then a guy that you actually depend on consistently to make plays in Tank Dell, he drops the pass. So you can go back to that. I know there's a lot of things we look at, but you can go back to that. Tank Dell drops the pass immediately instead of it being 7-0. It's 3-0. Then on drive two for the Texans, you had the tight end production, and you wondered, okay, are the Texans going to actually incorporate the tight ends? Are they going to incorporate the tight ends? You had 43 yards combined. That's the second right there. The second most productive day for Texans tight ends in the receiving game right there on that one drive, with the Dalton Schultz long 28-yarder, and then the Cade Stover on second down to make it a more manageable third down for 15 yards after the sack. However, we've already talked about 4 points being left on the table, right? Tank Dell drops the touchdown. That's 4 points left on the table early on. CJ Stroud gets sacked on third down, taken out of field goal range, and you then have to punt. So the Texans right there, you can make a case they've already left 7 points on the table, despite the defense coming out and stopping Green Bay early on. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. A sack takes you out of field goal range. Tank Dell drop touchdown. As we talk about things to look at. Then you had Green Bay on drive three. They just completely dissect the Texans. You have Neville Hewitt pick up the 15-yard penalty on the suplex, and then the Packers take the 7-3 lead on the Kraft sliding catch. He's a hell of a tight end, by the way. Then the Texans go out there. They lay an egg on offense. And at this point, you can kind of feel the crowd. The atmosphere, by the way, the Green Bay whiteout atmosphere, all that, the noise, the crowd, all that, as elite as it gets. And after the touchdown by Kraft and then Green Bay stopping the Texans, it kind of felt like the momentum was shifting in Green Bay's favor. And you kind of wondered, okay, is this going to be Minnesota all over again? But special teams. Green Bay momentum gets killed by the, quote, muff punt. Hits the guy's leg. The Texans recover. They get to start deep in Green Bay territory again. This time they take advantage of it. Joe Mixon goes in the end zone, 10-7 lead. And Joe Mixon would be the only sign of offense that the Texans showed. But even with that 10-7 lead, again, we go back to the Dell drop pass. We go back to getting sacked to get moved out of field goal range. You've left 7 points potentially just wasted. So you get a 10-7 lead. Good job defense. But the offense, with the drop pass and the inability to protect CJ Stroud, they've already left 7 points on the board with the Texans. So even with the 10-7 lead, you feel good, but you don't feel great. Then you have the forward pass controversy. I thought it looked like a forward pass. Tony Romo was babbling about it. You thought maybe DeMeco Ryans would challenge it. Sarator came in there. I think a lot of times Sarator has to come in there because Romo is babbling so much. I did not think it was a backward pass. I heard what they were talking about. Maybe it was worth a challenge. But for me, it didn't look as blatantly obvious as Romo and then we're discussing. But you can make a case. DeMeco Ryans probably should have challenged it and taken a look at it. Then you have Eric Murray, just an absolute terrible drive for Eric Murray. You had a third down where he did everything right in recognizing he had, I don't want to call it an easy tackle, but a tackle that I think most quality safeties make that would have forced a Green Bay punt. The reserve running back, though, moves the chains. Then you have Green Bay going back at Ross, which we anticipated. and they take the 14-10 lead. The Packers take the lead. Then the Texans, special teams once again, the offense no-show, special teams as good as they've been. Dameon Pierce back at kick return. He has the 43-yard return, and then Fairbairn, 52-yard field goal to cut the lead to 1. Green Bay on top, 14-13. Then Jordan Love. He throws an interception, his second interception of the game. Kalen Bullock with the interception, leaping play, and then a heavy dose of Joe Mixon, 50-plus yards on the ground for Joe Mixon. It gives the Texans a 19-14 lead. Now, after this, the Texans decided to go for 2. Some people think that that's what you do. Some people think you wait later. The way the game played out, it actually ended up being the right decision because the Texans ended up losing by 2 points. So had they not gone for 2 there, there's potential that we would have been questioning, well, if DeMeco had made the 2-point conversion, then the Texans would have won the game or at least tied it and forced it to overtime. It was just a matter of not getting it done. They had the penalty and then Mixon stuffed at the 1-yard line. But if they would have made that, then it would have played out. This is kind of a controversial thing. Some people believe you go for 2 early. Some people don't. The way the game actually played out, philosophy aside, and I'm not questioning a philosophy. I don't really have a strong opinion on whether or not 2 or not to go for 2 there. But the way the game played out, it was the right decision. They just needed to make the 2-point conversion. Do you like going for 2 early? Yes or no? And try to put aside the actual result. Do you support going for 2 that early? Some do. Some don't. Texans take the 19-14 lead at half despite, and we thought maybe, okay, the best was yet to come for C.J. Stroud. Really kind of more the same in the second round. Texans lead 19-14 at half despite Stroud being 5 of 11 for 40 yards. If I would have told you the Texans were up 19-14 at half, there is no way you would have thought that C.J. Stroud would have been 5 of 11 for 40 yards. Elite special teams will do that for you, and a solid defensive effort in which the defense intercepts Love 2 times will give you that. Texans, though, unable to take advantage at the start of the second half. They do absolutely nothing. And then Josh Jacobs, we talked about Mixon having the 50-plus yards on the drive that led to the Texans getting the 19-14 lead. Jacobs, 50-plus yards of offense, his damn self. Green Bay takes a 21-19 lead. LaFleur elects to kick the field goal instead of going for 2 there. Then you get a massive opportunity. The Texans special teams once again gives the Texans a chance by pinning them inside the 5. Tommy Townsend with a punt inside the 5. Not sure why Green Bay fielded it. Seems to be kind of a theme in the NFL this year. But the Texans pin them inside the 5. And then Neville Hewitt. By the way, Neville Hewitt is a good-ass football player. He is a very good reserve linebacker. Now, would I have confidently said that before the season? Perhaps not. But the job that Neville Hewitt has done filling in and being a reserve linebacker has been as solid as you could possibly expect. Second straight week that he leads the Texans in tackles. He had an interception and a huge third down tackle after special teams gave you the opportunity. And the Texans offense, though, once again, unable to take advantage. You had kind of an intense moment. You wondered if this was going to wake C.J. Stroud up. He had one run, which made it a more manageable third down. And then on the next third down, he kind of lowers the shoulder. He moves the chains. Jair Alexander jawing with him. And you wonder if it's going to get C.J. Stroud going. However, that does not happen, and the Texans are unable to take advantage. But they do get the ball back a little bit later on. This would be the final possession of the Texans' day offensively. You had an offsides on 3rd and 6. It moves the ball up to 3rd and inches. Bobby Slowick decides to throw to Stefan Diggs. That moves the chains. And then on 3rd and 10, the play we would have been talking about had the Texans been able to win this game. C.J. Stroud, despite being ineffective and the offense as a whole being ineffective in the pass, goes back and on 3rd and 10, he hits Xavier Hutchinson, moves the chains, 2-minute warning, and the Texans get the ball, and this is where the controversy develops. Texans run the ball twice for -5 yards. They make Green Bay kill timeouts, and then the Texans on 3rd and 15 decide to throw an out to Tank Dell, which had he caught it, he would have been out of bounds. You would have kicked the field goal. They end up having to kick the field goal anyways, and Green Bay has that extra timeout. Who knows whether or not Green Bay would have attacked differently. They got a little bit closer on the next play, on the final play that they ran as an offense to get within 50 yards, and they ended up getting the job done. I thought it was absolutely pathetic to run that play in that situation. I had no problem with making Green Bay use their timeouts, but I thought that was absolutely pathetic by Bobby Slowick to half-ass commit to making them use their timeouts, and then on 3rd and 15 to throw a play where there's no reward for it. A slant up the middle, okay, maybe he can run for the first down. A sideways pass, maybe he can run for the first down. A run for a loss of 2, at least they have to use their timeouts. A sideline pass to get closer when you have one of the best kickers in the league and he ended up making that field goal anyways, and you're making him not use the timeout, that play meant nothing. That was an irrelevant play. You would have been better off taking a knee because at least there's some sort of reward there. At least they have to use their final timeout. There was no reward to that 3rd down play. And a lot of times when you talk about these coaching decisions, outside of just basing it on results, a lot of times you can look back and say, what was the risk versus reward? DeMeco Ryans earlier on. Some of you say don't go for 2 early on. The reward, though, if that goes down, is you're up 7 points. And those are going to be a valuable 7 points. Hell, if you make that 2-point conversion, the Texans are in overtime, and who knows what the F we're talking about right now. So there's some sort of reward. That play to Tank Dell, no reward, nothing. Fairbairn's going to make a 34-yard field goal. He's going to make a 27-yard field goal. There was no payoff for that. If he throws a slant and you get 7 yards, then okay, at least they had to kill a timeout. But in that situation, if Tank Dell catches that ball and he goes out of bounds, the clock is going to stop. They're going to keep their timeout, and you are going to be kicking a field goal with the same amount of time that you had before. There's no point to that at all. None at all. Nonetheless, the Fairbairn field goal gives the Texans a 22-21 lead. Green Bay then attacks the Texans defense, and they end it with a 45-yard field goal to make it 22-21. So there you go. That's how it went down. Joe Mixon, the only guy to show up for the Texans on offense. Let's hear from Joe Mixon. Aaron Wilson caught up with him after the game. Here was what Joe Mixon had to say following the Texans' loss, in which, quite frankly, he was the only one who really, being honest, Aaron Wilson _NFL, Aaron Wilson KPRC2. Let's hear what Mixon has to say after the loss.
Offensively,
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I think for the most part, you know, in terms of where it came down to was execution. You know, they just executed more than we did, made one more play more than we did, and unfortunately, that just was the game.
Joe, to win the turnover battle and to not capitalize more, how tough do you feel it was? And does it feel like an opportunity squandered?
I mean, it's definitely opportunities squandered, man, but at the end of the day, I mean, hats off to our defense. They played their ass off all day. They gave us opportunities, and unfortunately, you know, we just didn't win the 3-and-out battle. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we keep our heads up high. We got a damn good, very good team. I mean, obviously they do too. But at the end of the day, I think it's all about us. You know, that's what it comes down to. It's all about us, and we're just gonna come back next week and respond. That's all we got to do.
what worked in the run game for you?
I mean, I think just being in sync with the whole line. The boys was creating lanes. They was doing whatever they had to do to make it shake, man. And I think that the tight ends, they did a hell of a job blocking. Same with our fullback. We all was in sync. And obviously the receivers on the perimeter, man. Them boys, they go out there and block their ass off. And when their time comes, you know, in the receiving game, man, you know, everybody's all bought in. just got to be better, protecting 7. That's all it comes down to.
So in terms of learning from this game, obviously there's a lot of football left. How much do you feel like the team will react the right way to this?
I mean, shit, it look like I'm worried. I'm not worried at all, man. I mean, like I said, we got a damn good football team. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, we are our worst enemy. And I think that we just got to go out there, respond. We're going to go out there, learn from the tape tomorrow, and obviously just store it away. We're going to learn from it, and we just got to respond. And I think that we're going to respond in a hell of a way next week. So, obviously, it sucks that we lost. We had opportunity and just came up short, man. Just came up short. That's all that happened.
All right, there you go. It's Joe Mixon. I mean, he said, "Hell, I'm not worried." And this is a tough football team. And the reality is, you're leaving a game where CJ Stroud and the offense was non-existent. And I think a lot of people are probably thinking that the Texans let one get away, which I think speaks volumes. Let's hear from an offensive lineman and their point of view. Offensive line getting a lot of smoke. Shaq Mason caught up with Aaron Wilson at Aaron Wilson _NFL. Here's what he had to say.
Blitz packages. What did you see from what they were attempting to do on defense?
Mixing up looks, and pressure, stance, those type of things. But I mean, it's really about us.
This is a hard one, obviously. This game was right there, and then to lose at the end. How disappointing is this loss?
Very disappointing, man. We left a lot of plays out there, but I can do watch the tape, learn from it, continue to grow. But you know what I'm saying? Take plays like this hurt, but I mean we're gonna be in the position again. So
yep.
Definitely got to just find a way to win.
We're gonna say offensively, this is just not your standard. What you guys are accustomed to doing.
Absolutely. I mean, we know there are plays out there. We know plays out there we missed. So like I said, regroup and attack next week.
Right side was Joe Mixon's running. What did you see from Joe and the way he ran the football today?
I mean, Joe does a great job for us each and every week. He doesn't need much, and he put a hat on the hat and he makes the rest happen. So that's a positive. But we just gotta put together a complete game.
It's always a collective, but as an offensive line, as the guys blocking, how much do you guys kind of take it to heart? Okay, take this one as a tough one and something to learn from.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's a lot of ball left. You know what I'm saying? A lot of ball left. Regroup, go back to the drawing board. Watch the tape. And put our best foot forward for next week.
All right, there we go. That was Shaq Mason right there as the Texans lose the game. Another one, 24-22. Yeah, I kind of rushed, put the wrong score on there, but you know what? It happens. They lost. We know what the result was. 24-22. The Texans lose. Appreciate everyone for coming through. A tough loss. More of the same with the offensive line. I don't think we really anticipate the Texans and CJ Stroud, the pass game, looking like this, but it still feels like one got away. Salute to the special teams. Salute to the defense. Gave you all you could expect, but the offense just not very good. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. SNL tomorrow, Reaction Monday. We'll see how it goes down. Always remember, one more super chat before we get out of here. CJ needs to use his feet more. We were in this game because of our defense and special teams. And Joe, to be honest, Hewitt played great. And by the way, Bullock is a star. Agree with you. I think Bullock can end up being really, really good. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Did Autry play? Yeah, he did. Didn't really do much, though. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Reaction Monday, mañana, Indianapolis next week.